Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah. Man.
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavils, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
What's going on, everybody? This is Dr. Cavils inside the HBCU Sports Lab, episode 638. I'm your host, David L. Rhodes, for the Indy Report. Unfortunately, Brandon King is out here on assignment, and so is Jeffrey Johnson. It's a different type of assignment for him. And if you know, you know. Congratulations to him. He just brought two new chillins to the world. So shout out to him. So I'm going to be going solo today. And so welcome to episode 637 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab Radio Show and Podcast, the show that's covering the sport HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU's athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, David L. Rhodes. And like I said, Brandon King, Tariq Wilson, and Jeff Johnson are all on assignment. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. So you know it's March, so it's March Madness. We had a lot of tournaments that ended that's been had over the weekend. We've already had our first four game. Shout out to Alabama State Hornets on the men's basketball side of the fence for getting that victory last night. Crazy finish. We always see Hail Marys in football, but we got to see a Hail Mary in college basketball in the opening round or the first four of the NCAA tournament last night. It was an outstanding game, but now Alabama State will be taking on number 1 Auburn. So right now, currently, they're 32.5 point underdogs to Auburn. And I honestly think they can cover that, to be honest with you. I think Alabama State's going to come up. The coaching staff is going to come up with a phenomenal strategy. Coach Matlock, he's going to come up with a phenomenal strategy to slow the game down a little bit and hopefully do what they got to do to keep it interesting against Auburn. I mean, if they can keep it close, it gets fascinating. Like the goal for them is to make Auburn tight. If they can make Auburn tight, then we're talking about a different type of ordeal. So shout out to them for getting the job done, and they got a nice little paycheck to this conference as well with that victory, because those victories count as NCAA wins. So they get the men's basketball unit. So we're going to talk about some of the other games because we have a lot of HBCUs that are playing in the postseason this year. We got some ladies playing in the WNIT. We got one institution playing in the WBIT. We also have the BCIC for Division II. So we'll go over some of those games too as well during the hour of this show. But I wanted to start the show by giving a huge shout out to Alabama State, getting it done in the tournament, in the SWAC tournament, their first one since 2011, and then coming in the first four opening night of the NCAA tournament and getting that victory against St. Francis. So shout out to them. So when we talk about, and we'll probably take the first break and get into all that, but I want to go over the Dr. Cavils' final top 5. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Let's see if I can get this up real fast. See if I can get it up expeditiously, so to speak. That's the men's, and this is the women. All right. Let's see if I can get that up. Let's check out in the chat who's in here in the chat. Shout out to the Chuck Hunt, Azariah Kelly. That's right. Shout out to Alabama State, man. I love it. I love it, man. I really do. I'm so thrilled that they were able to get it done. Um, so let's see here. Let's see. All right, bear with me while that's happening. Yeah, man. Tony Matlock did what he had to do. Like he wins wherever he wins wherever he goes, which is a testament to him. While I get these rankings up, I'm going to start with the ladies, then I'll go with the men as well. Things don't want to play well with others today. I see technology is not being kind to me today. But neither here nor there. With regards to, I'll pull it up this way then. There it goes. All right, now we're cooking on grease. All right. These were the women's rankings from last week. Well, from Tuesday, from yesterday. Yeah, the play that Coach Matlock did was excellent. I'll be honest. The only and I watched the show last night, and I understood, and I want to put my Aggies at 2, but it's very respectable of why they ended up falling to 3. Because they went one and done in the tournament. They did get the regular season title, but they went one and done in the tournament. But man, William and Mary, man, they had a player that was shooting 70% from the 3-point line throughout the series, throughout the tournament. So, things like that happen. Maybe I'll talk about that game just a little bit. But they're gonna get they got they eligible for postseason play. They got an auto bid into the women's basketball invitational tournament. So they get to play number 1 seed Virginia Tech tomorrow night on ESPN Plus. So they're still going to get an opportunity to try to get some magic going there. I mean, the only thing I would swap 3 and 2, but I understand why Norfolk and Southern are 1 and 2. I'm almost to the point where like Norfolk State should be like number 1, and then like you have like 10 blanks and just drop it all the way down and then get to number 2 because I think it's that distant at this point. So I'm not the only issue I have is maybe putting A&T at number 2. Strength of schedule, all that. I know Southern Jaguars won the SWAC, and I hope they win tonight. I believe they play tonight, if I recall correctly. I think they're in the playing game tonight. I got to double check that. I'm pretty sure the Southern ladies are playing tonight, but let me double check that. And I think they're playing High Point, if I recall. Let's see. Let's see here. They don't play High Point. They play UC something. Hold on. Why can't I find a bracket when I need to find a bracket? UC San Diego, that's who they're playing. Hopefully they'll win. This is the first year that they're doing units for the women's basketball program. So hopefully they win. They do play tonight at 9 p.m. against UC San Diego. So I'm hoping they can make it happen. Even though it's pretty much a home game. It's pretty much a home game for UC San Diego because the game's being played in Los Angeles, California. Which is, it's about an hour from San Diego. From that standpoint. Game's gonna be on ESPNU. Should be interesting, to say the least. But it should be that one should be an interesting one tonight. So we'll see. I'm hoping that they pull it off and get it done. From a CAA standpoint, High Point plays William and Mary tomorrow, but neither one of those institutions are HBCUs. But shout out to the ladies. Now, if I pull up the men's side, it's going to be kind of interesting about the men's side of the fence. But yeah, the men's side, it was a pretty good. Give that one a second to go. But Alabama and A&M, that was a rough sledding for them. They are playing. They're going to get the opportunity to have postseason play. They're in the WNIT. There was 4 HBCUs in the WNIT this year, which is that might be a record of how many HBCUs. 2 were auto bids and 2 were at large. A lot of folks were taken aback with the amount of teams in the tournament, but Alabama A&M is going to be playing Chattanooga on Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Some of these games are not going to be live on video either, which is unfortunate. Howard, who's ranked number 5, Howard's got a home game, which is excellent. They're playing Siena at Howard, which is awesome. And St. Mary's is playing Texas Southern at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Texas Southern. So I love the fact that our HBCUs are taking full advantage of getting these home games. And then, of course, and Coppin State is also playing Colgate, but they got to go to New York for that one. In Hamilton, New York, they're going to play Colgate in New York. So I'm very happy that 2 of the 4 HBCUs that got into the WNIT, their leadership made the decision to put a bid in to get a home game. Yeah, man, I'm with you, Edwin. I'm pretty sure that's a record. It's just convenient. I know A&T had a phenomenal run last year, but I think the inclusion of the BCIC might have, maybe they decided they wanted to nudge a couple more HBCUs into the WNIT this year. The men has not necessarily got the same type of grace in that regard, but I think it's big. I think women's basketball is a growing sport. It's going to continue to grow. I guess I was watching Bomani Jones and he talked about how the ratings for women's basketball is up year over year. So I think it's a sports that's growing, and I think it's something that HBCUs absolutely needs to take advantage of. That's why I was happy when I read that the SWAC was making a decision to separate the men's and the women's game. I think that's good, and I think that's a revenue opportunity because of the growth of women's basketball. So I think that's a beautiful thing. But shout out to these ladies and good luck to them. And A&T, like I said, they're playing in the WBIT. They got an automatic bid as regular season champions for the CAA, and they're going to be going up against Virginia Tech at 6 p.m. on tomorrow night. So that should be an interesting game. I mean, they've taken down ACC schools before, historically within the program. I believe they beat Virginia Tech before. I have to double check that, but pretty sure they beat Virginia Tech before. But I know this is a different Virginia Tech team than from before, so it'll be fascinating to see how that goes. And of course, the Norfolk State Spartans are playing up against Maryland, but I got to remember what day they're playing. I think they're playing on Friday, if I recall correctly. Let's see here. They're playing. They made a 13 seed, so they're playing. I might be standing correct. No, they're playing on Saturday. They're playing Saturday at 4:00 on ESPN. So they're getting a pretty good network too. That's gonna be great. So they're playing on ESPN. What's going on, Lennon? How you doing, my man? Yep. So it's gonna be interesting because I don't think a lot of these games are gonna be on television. The WNIT, the WBIT is gonna be on ESPN Plus, and Norfolk State's gonna get a pretty good time slot on Saturday at 4:00 on ESPN. So it's gonna be fascinating to see how Norfolk State does against Maryland. I personally think that they have a legitimate shot to pull that upset. Maryland isn't that good when it comes to getting boards. And that's something that Norfolk State strives in. So we shall see how that goes. But I'm also fascinated to see how things go in the WNIT. I want to see how far some of our HBCUs go. I think Alabama A&M could potentially make a run here, and I think Coppin State, they're up and down, but I think they could potentially make a run as well, and Howard too. I think all 4 of them can, to be honest with you. I could pull up the bracket just to see because I'm kind of curious on whether or not is it possible that we can get like a Final Four of HBCUs in this tournament. because that would be really cool if that can happen. So Texas Southern is in one bracket, one quadrant. Alabama A&M is in one quadrant. Howard, let me pull. You know what? I'm talking to myself. Let me pull this up real fast for you guys, so I can show you. All right, pull that back. Yeah, that's too close to cover right there. There we go. So let me see here. Pull up this bracket. Hopefully you guys can see it. You probably can't. So let me try to blow it up just a little bit. So it looks like it appears that there's an HBCU in every quadrant. We got Alabama and A&M right here against Chattanooga. Texas Southern's down here against St. Mary's. We got Coppin State right here against Colgate. That's going to be a tough game for them. I didn't realize Colgate had 23 wins. And we got Howard and this other one. So, yeah, there's a legitimate scenario where we could have a Final Four of HBCUs that they'd get the job done. So that would be fascinating if we can make that happen. That would be definitely fascinating. I said it earlier, Lennon, man, about my Lady Aggies. When you got a player shooting 70% for three, it's kind of hard to beat them. And she kept that going for the entire tournament, which is impressive to say the least. So shout out to William and Mary, man. They were the 9 seed, and they continue the streak of 7 seeds or worse winning the tournament, because the first 2 years that A&T's been in the conference, the 7 seed won. 1 year was Monmouth, the other year was Drexel, and this year the 9 seed won. Oh yeah, I took it. You should be able to see it now. I never shared it. Shame on me. I apologize, guys. So here we go. You got A&M in one quadrant, Texas Southern in another, Howard in another, and Coppin State in another. And just for folks who aren't aware, some of these teams received byes, like Buffalo, Southern Indiana, Rutgers, and so forth. College of Charleston got a bye. They're pretty good. But I would be fascinated. I hope Howard wins, because I would love to see Howard play College of Charleston. Then you can have a comparison about Howard, because A&T beat College of Charleston. So it'll be fascinating to see that game. But they're pretty good. They got the CAA Player of the Year, Turin Barco, and she got a twin sister, pretty good too. But there's a legitimate shot to potentially have all the HBCUs in the Final Four. I don't know what WNT called it, but I'm rolling with that for now. I'm looking at these, and just an FYI for folks who don't realize it, the bye, just because the teams got a bye does not mean they're going to get the home game. Okay, you can still get the bid. A&T did not have a bye, and they were able to host 3, so you can still get the bid if Oh, it's the Fab Four. Sorry, guys. I apologize. It's the Fab Four. So A&T did not have a bye last year, and they were able to host 3 home games. So from that standpoint, the bye doesn't matter. If you can get the bid, you should be okay and do it, because some teams don't bid. So you got to take those things into account. But maybe I think some of these already have names on them, so that tells me they probably already put a bid in. But hey, Texas Southern, they didn't put a bid in. So if you win and beat St. Mary's, put a bid in and get another home game. Coppin, you might not be able to put a bid in, buddy. Howard, you can put another bid in, which will probably be pretty awesome. I think you're probably gonna need that home field advantage against College of Charleston. Who else is left? Alabama A&M, you didn't put a bid in the first time, but definitely try to put a bid in against Troy. If they were anything like last year, man, they were pretty good last year. All right. Okay. Yeah. NIT's 48 teams. There's 48 teams in the NIT. So 48 teams. Pretty good bracket. A lot of teams get byes and such, but there's 48 teams in the NIT. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm wondering why Alabama A&M didn't do the hosting. Didn't try to put a bid in, and maybe they did, and they just got our bid. But I think for HBCUs, I think if you have a strong fan base, you should absolutely put a bid in. Like we had close to almost 4,000 people in all of our games during the NIT, like WNIT last year. So I think that's a good it's a revenue driver too. The bid isn't that much. So, you can definitely make out from that standpoint. But all right, let's go ahead and take our first break. I've been rambling for 20 minutes. So let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk about the men's tournament, and then we'll talk about the BCIC as well. So we'll be right back. This is Dr. Cavils inside the HBCU Sports Lab, the Indy Report.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
There's a shot. Right. Might be. It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you, guys, for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues to
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome back to Dr. Cavils Inside the HBCU Sports Live Radio Show and Podcast, episode 638. So I'm going to pivot to Division 2 because I want to talk about the BCIC. They got 4 games going on tomorrow. All 4 of them will be streaming live on HBCU Go, and they got a pretty good slate right now, man. I will say that. They have they open it up with game 1. Clark Atlanta versus the women's game, Clark Atlanta versus Virginia Union. Then they have game 2. Central State on the men's side. Central State plays Claflin. Then they go back to the women's games. Game 3, we got the Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls taking on the Livingstone Bears, Blue Bears. And for the final game, is the men's game. We got Johnson C. Smith going up against the Virginia Union Panthers. So pretty good slate. So the winners will advance. This is the tournament. The winners will advance, and then the losers will be playing each other as well. So you're gonna get 8 games total, which is pretty awesome to say the least. Shout out to the good folks at the BCIC. Joshua Sim Sr.'s had some involvement in it. Dr. Wes Bellamy is the the founder of it. So shout out to those individuals and the rest of the team for getting this done. They got some pretty good sponsors. All these games will be streaming live on HBCU Go. So you should definitely take the time and find some time and watch the games tomorrow. And through the weekend, I know they had a lot of events. If I would have known about the space tournament, I would have tried to figure out a way to pull up. But overall, man, I think this is really, really good. I know they did the golf tournament yesterday, if I recall. So they're rocking and rolling. They got an education fair for the high school kids. So I think they're doing a lot of community type work within Charlotte. So if you're in the Charlotte area, you need to come on and pull up. I think it's an awesome event, and I think it's going to be an awesome event, and I think we should all support this. And hopefully next year, we get the Division I institutions involved. Hopefully we get some teams involved. I think some of the part of the challenge on the D1 side is the amount of schools that got postseason play. So basically, the teams that make the NCAA tournament is one thing, but the ones that don't, it's open season from that regard. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, let's talk about the NCAA tournament for a bit, because I want to have a discussion about how we feeling about some of these games. We got Alabama State going up against Auburn. We have in that game will be on CBS tomorrow at 2:50 p.m. So if you're early bird like me, you might be able to catch most of this game from home from work. Like I said earlier, right now Alabama State are 32.5 point underdogs. I think they can cover the spread, but if you lose your money, don't blame me. Should be a fascinating game from that standpoint. Like I said earlier, if they can slow down the game, I think Alabama State can make it interesting. Because and if they're 3 balls hitting, I think it'll really get interesting. We got in the other game we got Norfolk State. They didn't have to do the opening round game or the first 4. They as a 16 seed, they are going up against Auburn. Not Auburn, excuse me, Florida. They're going up against Florida. So our HBCUs got to go up against SEC teams, so on the men's side. So, and I got to figure out when that game is scheduled. I think they might play tomorrow as well. Boy. Should be interesting. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that they're going to be able to beat these guys. This game's on TNT on Friday, 6:50 p.m., so they get a pretty good nightcap game as well. It should be interesting. Florida's in 1 seed, so it's not going to be easy. I think a lot of folks feel like the SEC didn't deserve 14 teams. So it's going to be fascinating to see how many of the SEC teams survive. It'd be great if one of our HBCUs can pull that upset. Let me see if I can find the odds of this game. Norfolk is 28.5 point underdogs against Florida. I think they'll cover that as well. And if you're really froggy, Norfolk State is 35-1 odds to win. So if you put in $1, you win 35. That's the easiest way to explain it. So it should be interesting to see if Norfolk State can keep this game close against Florida. They have played competition. They have a better chance to beat Florida than Alabama State does to beat Auburn. I could tell you based on the matchup predictor, but the matchup predictor only has Norfolk has a 2.7% chance of winning. And Alabama State only has a 1% chance of winning against their respective opponents. But it'll be fascinating to see how our men HBCUs do. But the game, I think that we legitimately have a chance. Tomorrow is going to be on the late. This week is going to be on the ladies' side. Quite frankly, I'll be honest with you guys. I think Norfolk State has a chance to go to the Sweet 16. And I'm going to kind of paint the picture for you guys. I believe they can beat Maryland. So when they play Maryland, when they play Maryland on Saturday, I think they can beat them. Now, if they do beat Maryland, then they would most likely play Alabama. They've already played Alabama this year. They lost by 10. I think they can go get some get back on that one. And that was a very competitive game. So I think that Norfolk State has the ladies in Norfolk State has a legitimate chance to get into the Sweet 16. And that would be amazing. I think they're probably one of the best women teams that we've ever had in HBCU. Larry Vickers has done an outstanding job as head coach for those ladies. And I just think that I think they have a chance to get this thing done and do something special with this team. And HBCUs will be celebrating this team for a very long time. So from my perspective, I think that we have a legitimate, like, it's going to be fun to watch and see if this adventure lasts. Now, yeah, this year is going to be the key too. Like, they got to stay out of foul, and honestly, it's particularly, we got to make sure that Diamond Johnson stay out of foul trouble ultimately. Like, I think if they have Diamond Johnson off the floor for far too long, it's going to be a long day. But I think that they can definitely compete with Maryland, and I think they can definitely compete with Alabama. And the crazy thing is, though, Alabama is playing Green Bay. I'll say Norfolk State's worst loss was probably against Green Bay, because that was a game they should have won. So they're going to have an opportunity to get back with either one or the other, either Green Bay or Alabama. So that's going to be interesting to see. Oh, Lennon, man, I ain't gonna post it. I ain't gonna post that comment, but man, you are hilarious right now, sir. Oh, that's a pretty good parlay if it's only $1. I mean, that ain't a bad risk. I mean, that's a fair point, but they're playing in the first four. But the units are still the units. And like I said earlier, this is the first year that the women's basketball tournament is getting units. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that goes with regards to that. But that being said, I want to take a second break, and I'm going to try to take questions from the chat. And I'm going to talk about what happened with A&T and William and Mary, and get into their game a bit after the break. So we'll be right back. This is Dr. Cavils inside the HBCU Sports Lab, the Indy Report.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavils of Dr. Cavils inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavils inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome back to Dr. Cavils Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, episode 638, the Indy Report. Now, I'm supposed to come back and talk about what happened to A&T, and I will say this: there were high expectations for me with regards to the tournament. I think that A&T played an outstanding game, but I think the biggest thing that that hurt near the end was the scoring drop that occurred near the end of the game against William and Mary, and it didn't help that William and Mary decided to pick they picked the perfect time to get hot. To just give you a landscape of William and Mary prior to the tournament, they lost 7 of their last 8 games. They were 8-10 in conference at the time. Prior to them started to lose their losing drought, they started losing a lot. I can't even speak today. Prior to that, they were actually second in the conference. And then they lost 7 of 8 and ended up 8-10 and the 9 seed. In the CAA, all 14 teams make the tournament. But the 9 seed was good enough for them, so they got 1 bye because 4 teams got to play five games, and to win it for 4 teams, for 4 teams, they would have to win 5 straight days. But William and Mary had to win 4 straight days. Their first opponent was Hofstra. Hofstra beat them over 20 in the regular season. They proceeded to dominate Hofstra the entire game. They shot well, they rebounded well, they played well across the board. And I talked to some of my Aggie alums, my Aggie friends, and I said, "Hey, this William and Mary game ain't gonna be easy, guys." And I think some of them were like, "Well, why would you say that?" And I said, "Well, this is different than the team that we just played the final weekend of the season. They look like a completely different basketball team. A&T beat them by over 20 points both times we played them. We played them in their place; they came to ours. And we were doing pretty well for the most part, but they stayed in it. And in the fourth quarter, the final 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, A&T didn't score a single point. And William and Mary proceeded to lead the game, get the game into overtime, and then A&T scoring drought continued in overtime, and they ended up losing by 8. They only scored 2 points in the overtime period. So shout out to William and Mary. They had this young lady, her Monet Dance. She made 7 threes against us. She ended up shooting 70% from 3-point land for the entire tournament. William and Mary proceeded to go and win the entire CAA. They took out number 4 Drexel and number 3 Campbell on the way. And A&T had a lead of double digits, and that was not a problem for them. And when they played Campbell, they had a lead of double digits, and that was not a problem for them. So shout out to both of them. Shout out to William and Mary for getting it done, and good luck to them in the tournament. I asked for the Lady Aggies. I know they were disappointed, but they have no reason to. They had Jordan Dorsey was all CAA, first team all CAA. She also was on the all defensive team. And Malia Bracone and Shania Clark, they both were CAA third team. And I will say this: I think they're losing a lot of seniors going into the following season, but I think this team is going to be really good next year as well. So it's going to be fascinating about the growth of that team. But their season's not over yet. Like I said before, they're going to get to play Virginia Tech tomorrow night. So hopefully they can make a run in WBIT, and then we can just go from there. It was a disappointing ending to their season, but they're to the CAA tournament, but their season's not done yet. Somebody asked me about why does the Ivy League have 2 teams, and I'm assuming you're talking about the men's tournament. The Ivy League has always had They always tend to get maybe 2 teams into the tournament. I'm trying to see where the other teams at. I see Yale, which I got Yale beating Texas A&M, by the way. There goes your little bracket upset for you. But so let's see here. But either way, I mean, the Ivy League typically gets a team or two, gets 2 teams in. Like they actually play some ball. They play Saturday, Zach. They play Saturday at 4:00. Oh, I'm looking forward to that one, man. And like I said earlier, man, I think they're gonna probably beat. Oh, it's on the women's side. They're probably going to beat. I think they're going to beat Maryland. And I think they're going to beat the winner of Maryland, the winner of Alabama, Green Bay. Like I really think they can do it. I really think they can. I really think they can get to the next weekend. I mean, the goal at this point of the game is that you got to get to the next weekend. All right. Nah. Oh, Princeton and Harvard. I mean, I don't know why folks act like the Ivy League can't play ball. I never understood why that folks think the Ivy League can't play ball. Of course they can play ball. I mean, their football programs are pretty good too. HBCUs have not had good luck against those guys when we play them. In FCS football either. And they're not going to be in the playoffs, taking another spot from folks. Yeah, I'm a believer, man. I'm a believer. I'm literally looking at my bracket now. I'm a believer in Norfolk, man. I think they're gonna get to the Sweet 16, and I think that would be a huge story. If they can pull. I think it's gonna be a huge story when they beat Maryland too. But I think it'll be huge. It'll be a huge story if they can break through and get there. But I think, and I'll be honest, the Bucks gonna stop after that because they're in the same quadrant with South Carolina, and that's who they would play if they make it to the Sweet 16. But I think they'll make it interesting. It wasn't that long ago when Dawn Staley did that press conference and pretty much said Norfolk State is not a 16 seed because they had to play him in the first round. Yo, man, people be sleeping on the Nerds. The Nerds can ball. The Nerds can ball, man. I mean, the Nerds can ball. I'm trying to see what seed they gave them. And I typically am a sucker for Ivy League teams in the tournament. I don't know why. I'm just a sucker for them. I always pick them. Y'all want to talk about the, see, I was trying not to talk about this today. I think HBC Nightly and myself and some of the other contributors have lit a huge fire about this whole situation. I mean, I'm not shocked at the MEAC if Charlotte has an interest in getting the MEAC back, getting the MEAC tournament. But we're a couple of years away from 2028. And truth be told, I said it Sunday night on HBCU Nightly. I don't see them leaving Norfolk. I think they need to consider it, but I don't see them doing it. That's just my opinion on the matter. And what do I know, right? So I just don't see it happening. Princeton's an 11 seed. And Duke's pretty good, man. I've seen Duke play. Duke's pretty good. Yeah, Duke's pretty good. For the women, I picked South Carolina to win it all. And this is and it's funny because this is kind of considered a down year for them. But I still think South Carolina can go and win it all. It'll be fascinating to see how far they get. So I just think that South Carolina can. It's funny. Historically, the women's tournament tends to be very chalky. I got all 4 1 seeds going to the Final Four. Cause I think South Carolina, and matter of fact, I got the Elite 8 are the top 2 seeds. They tend to. It's very chalky in the women's bracket. From that standpoint. But so yeah. but it's kind of wild with everything that's been going on with the tournaments and things of that sort. And the way things are going with regards to the postseason tournaments, which is why I'm like a big advocate of the BCIC, the Black College Invitational Championship, because I think we need to have a tournament where we can, HBCUs can pit amongst each other, get more MEAC versus SWAC games, CIAA versus SAIC games, get the independents involved in that as well. I think those things are important. And I think it's important to let these institutions get some postseason play, and I've said this in the past. Like I think the NCAA tournament, it's still fun right now, right? It's still fun. Both the men and the women's, it's still fun right now, right? But I have a feeling that the Power Four conferences don't want to make it fun anymore. The biggest thing about the NCAA tournament are the Cinderella teams, and I think they want to get rid of the Cinderellas. And I think that's the wrong direction to go, in my personal opinion. And I know whenever I say it, people think I'm crazy when I say it, but I truly believe that. I just think that they so with that being said, we kind of need to have our own tournament that pit among the best of the best from that standpoint for the folks who don't make the NCAA tournament, because we have some pretty good basketball teams in the MEAC and the SWAC and the CIAA and the SAIC. Like, South Carolina State had a phenomenal season. I've never been to the Norfolk Scope, but I've heard that they haven't updated in a very, very long time. So, I don't. Does Norfolk have a different arena they can move it to? I'm open to that too, or is that the only arena they got? I don't look, man. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just thinking about it from the perspective of we gotta always have your own. And I think the BCIC does that. So I'm never gonna shy away from the fact that you probably should have something to have more games for HBCUs and such. So that's just how I've always felt about it. It's funny because we got the Indy report and like we covered the three institutions that don't necessarily that aren't in black conferences anymore, but they're still HBCUs. So from that standpoint, and I was told that the independents could have had an opportunity, but they wanted to select some teams to make sure that you want to select teams that's got some pretty good records. So, hey man, that's what brings the ratings, in my opinion. I mean, you want the Goliaths to go down. Like, there's going to be a lot of brackets busted tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to seeing it all. It's going to be fun. Like, and this is like one of my favorite times of the year. And there's the NFL playoffs, and then there's March Madness for me. Those are my two favorite times of the year. So tomorrow, I'm looking forward to it. I normally would take time off of work. I'm not going to this week, but yeah, I'm looking for. I considered going to the tournament because the tournament's actually in my area. Then I saw the ticket prices and I said, nah, I ain't going to no tournaments. I'll watch from the house. So. Oh, okay. So that would do it. That would do it. That would definitely do it. All right. I think I'm gonna call it a show. Make sure you guys watch some HBCU basketball this weekend. And if you're in Charlotte, go check out the BCIC. Please, ma'am, please, sir. While I pull up this outro, because I can't find anything today. It's been a long day today. OG Strike Zone is next. So make sure you guys stick around to check that out as well. So yeah, let me see. I got some more comments I want to hit. Appreciate it, guys. All right. You would think I would know the outro by heart, but I do not. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share your podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am David O. Rhodes. Shout out to Dr. J. Keanu Cavils, the Dean of HBCU Sports. We're coming inside the lab in the college HBCU sports with Brandon King and Tariq Wilson and Jeff Johnson. We look forward to next week as we will discuss the latest news in the lab. Make sure you follow myself, my Twitter, my X handle, whatever we call it, Twitter, X. Mama call it Twitter. I'm gonna call it Twitter, ChampD1012. That's my handle, so you can always come at me and ask questions and things of that sort. Make sure you follow Dr. Kenyatta Cavils on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Make sure you follow Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big and continue to move forward. We'll talk to you soon. Course lecture dismissed.